So we got the engine apart to fix the coupling, and just as a safety precaution, I switched off the water inlet. Now the generator and the engine share a sea chest, the water inlet, the cooling water that comes through to cool both the engine and the generator. So I turned that off when we were off the boat, just as a safety precaution, and then we got back late last night. I realised the battery was a bit low, put the generator on and forgot about the cooling water, and within about 20 minutes there was smoke coming out the engine bay, and sure enough the muffler on the generator exhaust had melted, and there was smoke and water coming all in the engine bay. So now we have got a melted muffler on the generator, as well as a disconnected shaft. It's just going from bad to worse at the moment. The cyclone's developing over the Coral Sea as well. The cyclone season is kicking in early, and we've got a broken generator and a broken engine and no way to charge the batteries because it's overcast today. It's not a good situation to be in. I'm going to take the muffler out and see if we can get a replacement, or at the very least try and get it rebuilt. So a brief overview of the cooling system. First of all, it goes through this big sieve here, which is a straining basket. It's got a kind of a lattice plastic sieve in there. Then cooling water sort of tees off there. One part goes to the engine, the other goes to the generator. So it goes all the way around here, and then eventually goes to the water pump there, which is just behind the starter solenoid. There is the impeller housing. You can just see it there. Okay, and then that goes under the generator. It comes out at the heat exchanger there, and then that goes off. The raw water goes off up to an anti-siphon bend. There's a little T off the anti-siphon bend which goes into the exit of the exhaust pipe there, which cools it down and basically prevents a lot of smoke. Takes that straight into the sea. Round a bend and then down into the exhaust elbow there. Into the elbow here. That goes off into an exhaust hose into the muffler or the Waterlock. And then that carries on through this convoluted system up here, out and exits the boat down there. Because the outlet is at water level, this huge bend prevents seawater coming back in and coming back into the elbow. And we happened to be on a mooring ball just off Cairns boatyard in Cairns at the time, and Ben, the boatyard manager, couldn't have been more friendly and helpful and helped us track down the exact Vetus Waterlock that we needed. It looks the right size. There's the old one with its melted bits. The only problem is it doesn't come with the 1.5 inch adapter, which the old one has got on. So I'm going to try and get that off somehow. In the end, I just need to cut it off, but in the process I nearly lost it overboard. I walked all over Cairns trying to find this adapter. I think what it is a 1.5 inch to 1 3/4 inch. I'm not sure why they work in inches for a European product, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, nowhere in Cairns has got an adapter of those sizes. And this one that came off the old one, I cut it off, wasn't actually an adapter. It was kind of cut off and then sort of glued onto the end, or melted onto the end of the last Waterlock. This has got a bit of a taper on it, so I'm just going to take that taper off so it's flatter, and I've got a slightly wider surface area which to glue that on. So that will be put on there with JB Weld, and then I'm going to put a layer of fiberglass around the edge. So I've fiberglassed the end on there now. It was butt jointed there with some JB Weld, so a nice generous helping of JB Weld. And then what I've done is I've put a couple of layers of fiberglass over the top and sanded it down. I started off by putting sort of one layer over in the hope that I could kind of hold that joint together, but it wouldn't push down. So I trimmed it off just past the joint so it covered the joint. And then what I've done is I've cut some more small fiberglass tabs, which I've put on each one of the square edges around there. And then just sanded off the excess, and I've got a really good strong joint there now. So that sprung a leak almost immediately and the generator was still overheating. So you just see where that's starting to melt again. So I'm going to have to cut that bit away. Luckily it hasn't damaged the whole thing. So that was out of commission all the way to Brisbane until we could find a proper adapter for the Waterlock. So I turned my attention to the exhaust hose, which was also in a bad way and really needed replacing. This looks completely knackered. And I also tested for blockages and leaks in the exhaust elbow. So I took off the pipes either side of the anti-siphon benders, check them, and sure enough they were in a bad way as well. I mean, I'd really done a proper job in screwing up the entire raw water system of this generator. So there was nothing else to do but remove them and replace those as well. I suppose if there's a place you want to be stuck in with boat repairs, I suppose Cairns is pretty good. There's a lot of light industry around here. It's not all necessarily aimed towards the marine industry, but you've got steel fabricators and you've got aluminium workshops and a lot of engineering firms, so you can find what you want, but it takes a bit of looking for and a lot of legwork. I wish I'd had one of those electrical scooters which our friends on Tea Time have got, because he manages to do things in a fraction of the time that I managed to get them done. The siphon brake for the generator is in just getting repaired. It's got a sort of a hairpin leak in it, which I'm getting patched up. So I've got a sharp lift which specialises in hoses to hopefully get an exhaust pipe, 2-inch exhaust pipe, and a couple of other cooling water ones that melted when I overheated the generator. And now a quick plug for a little initiative we're trying. Have you ever dreamt of a lifestyle like this? Well, here's some really exciting news for you. You can have access to comprehensive guidance crafted by us, the Renker and Woody, seasoned world cruisers, yachting instructors and parents. We've taught thousands of people how to sail, and as a cruising family, we've sailed tens of thousands of miles across the world's oceans.
Now you can access that knowledge from our Patreon platform. So, if you want to shift your life from traditional school and work towards boat schooling, remote working, minimalist living, and a remarkable life experience, then find out how by visiting www.mothershipadrift.com or click on the links in the description below. See you out there.
So do check out our Patreon platform. We're uploading loads of useful resources up there on a weekly basis for anyone who's trying to escape the rat race. So I've just got back from town. I had to walk around a little bit to find a few spare parts, but I finally got them. I also got this siphon brake sorted out as well. We had a pinhole leak coming out of there, which I'd covered with JB Weld and epoxy glue, and it held quite well actually, but I thought it was about time. Seeing as I had the pipes off, I might as well take this off and get the weld done. So nice little repair on that. Actually I thought this was an Onan piece for the generator, but I can't find it on any of the parts catalogue, so I think it must be an AML special. The other thing I got was some cooling water hose, so that's about a 1-inch pipe and exhaust hose, so I can get those put back in place and hopefully start rebuilding the cooling system on the generator. So I temporarily fitted the Waterlock back just to make sure that the exhaust hose fitted, and began rebuilding the anti-siphon hose end. So with a bit of persuasion, I managed to get that on the siphon brake there, and so obviously that lies flat against the ceiling like that. A lot of people are familiar with AMLs don't like the idea of that being horizontal rather than vertical, but it's worked for 20 years, so there's no reason it shouldn't keep on working the way it has. So that's the bit that comes off that feeds the end of the exhaust and cools the exhaust. I'm not quite sure why it's been reduced like that, but I guess it's all been engineered as it should. So I've got some of these extra fat Jubilee clips or hose clips, 36 to 39 millimeters that is. So when these cooling pipes get hot, they lose some of their rigidity, and as you can see with that one, it's completely collapsed in on itself. Notice with this one, which actually goes on the heat exchanger, it's got some poly pipe in there to give it some rigidity, and it hasn't collapsed the same way as that one. Obviously it has collapsed somewhat, as you can see, because of the overheating. So I managed to get hold of a bit of poly pipe, which I'm going to cut up and then I'm going to stick in the end of here to give those a bit of rigidity. It's slightly tight, so I'm just going to heat the ends of those up and put that in. It'll give it something solid for the Jubilee clips to clamp down on. It needs to fit in about 50 or 60 mil, which will fit inside that silicone sleeve. What I'm going to do is shove it in as far as I can, about 50 or 60 mil, and then just cut it off. It took me a whole morning to go all over town just to find that little bit of poly pipe there. It's 25 mil, so it's slightly big, but that's good because that means that when it gets in, it'll be nice and tight. So first I fitted the end to the exhaust elbow. Then the heat exchanger. And finally the small hose to the exhaust, which acts as a telltale and also cools the gases as they exit the boat. So the next job was to check the impeller, and judging by the state of the rest of the raw water cooling system, I did not hold much hope that it was going to be in a good way, and it wasn't. I have to admit, it's not the easiest thing to get to because you have to remove the starter solenoid first. Our starter solenoid was decommissioned a long time ago, so I wasn't worried about damaging it. Luckily we haven't lost any of the fins, but it's definitely looking heat damage there. You can see how it's kind of got a melty look to it, where it's been rubbing dry against the plate of the impeller housing. You can see what it should look like there. It's not an easy job, just take a lot of pulling and pushing and manipulating until it comes out, but it gets there eventually. So I've just got to remember to put a bit of grease on the inside of that to make sure it doesn't stick for the next time. But now I've got some cleaning up to do before I replace it with a new one. I've given the impeller housing a clean out, and I've also put a cable tie around the impeller, and that just helps hold the blades tightly in while it goes in place. I'm also going to give it a spray with a bit of PTFE grease as well. I'm going to put a bit of washing up liquid just around the outside to help those blades slide in. The replacement impeller that I already had on board, luckily, came with a gasket, so I didn't have to remake that. So I'll put the starter solenoid back. So it wasn't until we reached Brisbane that I actually found an adapter that almost fit the muffler. But it needed a few modifications to fit perfectly. So if you find these videos useful and you're the type of person who likes to return a favour, then you can hit the thanks button below the video and buy me a beer, which would be very much appreciated in this hot climate. And this week's beers are on JT Mack, Rosa Manoff, Ian McKay, Craig Brown and Hafen Kinneblog. So I've tried the generator 3 times now and it's still not sucking through any coolant water. The only thing I can think of is it needs priming. You know, maybe some of the water's kind of gone from the feed pipe and it's not managing to suck it back through. So I'm going to try and prime it. I must admit, it took a few attempts to clear some mysterious airlock that was in the system, but eventually I got it going. So that was it. The generator was back online. So if you're an expert or an old salty sea dog with some insights into this matter, then I would love to hear those in the comments below. That's it, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out our other sailing and travel channel, Mothership Adrift. Thanks in particular to our patrons who make all things possible. If you want to become a patron, just follow the links in the description below. You can also check out our merch store with mugs and t-shirts with our Mothership branding.